let's start off with a little cheers.
Yeah, I was gonna say cheers.
Cheers,
boys.
gentlemen. Thank
Cheers,
you.
man.
Hey Tribe, we are sitting down with Little House Brewing Company here in Chester. I'm going to be speaking with Sam and Carlisle. We're going to talk a little bit about their story, to learn a little bit about them, because I know you guys love to drink beer. So welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you so much.
thanks
Happy
for
to be
having
here,
us.
man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, like I love this little quaint area that you got. Chester is like a little personal to me because I grew up about 15 minutes away from here. I remember coming down here, and especially as an adult, they got good food, good restaurants, and now they have awesome beer here thanks to you guys.
Thank you.
So let's learn a little bit about you guys. Let's hear the story of Little House Brewing, how it came about, and we're going to dive into your individual stories about you too. But as co-founders, obviously you guys brew beer. I want to know, first off, why you call yourselves Little House Brewing Company.
I gotta throw it over to Carlisle for this one to tell the story of the name, but he can tell it a lot better than I can.
Sure. I mean, we started the idea of Little House before it was called Little House, obviously. And, we knew we wanted to do a brewery. We knew we wanted it to be a small brewery in I'm sorry. That's dripping.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Facts of a business owner, nonstop. It's always on the mind. There's always something good. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, nothing to worry about.
Yeah, Little House Brewing. How did it become that name?
Yeah, so we kind of came up for the idea of Little House before it was named Little House. We knew we wanted to do a brewery. We knew we wanted it to be a small, kind of friendly tap room. We hoped we'd be on like a main street somewhere, and we had this long PDF of possible name ideas. And once we settled on the location, we decided why would we call it anything other than what it is, Little House. So.
Yeah,
That's really awesome.
We had a long like running list of just like anywhere from like way too simple or just up to like really way too pretentious names like.
The Bear and the Vine.
Yeah, the Bear and the Vine and Tumble and Essence and like craft beer can get a little pretentious sometimes. I think. And so at some point I think and this was Carlisle really realized this we had settled on this space and we were looking at this list and it was one of the names I think.
It was, yeah. We had it on the list, and I could be wrong. This is how I remember it. The reason we had it on the list was before we opened, we had built a half-barrel pilot system in my grandmother's greenhouse in Haddam, and so we were, batching recipes there. And at one point, my uncle told me he was going to tear the greenhouse down, and I'd have to move the brewing stuff. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just move it to the Little House because there's a little guest house on the property. So I think that's why Little House ended up getting written on the list. And then we found the building, and it's literally a little house.
Yeah, it felt weird to slap like any other name on this building, like to brand it other than just calling it what it is.
It's funny that you say that too because it's like buying furniture in a house, right? Like you could buy, like when you move, you're like, oh, I'm going to keep all this furniture. But then you move to that new house and you're like, this furniture does not fit. So it seems like you need to like visualize that space, see that feel, and all of a sudden you go, that makes sense. I'm gonna totally Little House. If it's a little house, it exactly goes off of something that's like an emotional connection too, that ties into that like, growing up or a certain time of your life. I just think that's really, really awesome.
And it tied in well with the whole idea of, because we were also trying to come up with the brand itself and what does the logo look like, and calling it Little House, our logo is the building, like it's the brewery, that's it.
Simple. Right?
Super easy. We didn't have to like come up with a cool.
This will probably come up later, but we're really lazy, is what it is. It's just picking a logo and building a brand.
Name and logo at the same time, awesome.
As I'm sure you know, is really difficult. So
it's super difficult.
Birds with one stone. So.
Whether it's I always look at it as it's hard to be simple. It's easy to be complicated. It's easy to have these long, drawn out names, these really intricate brand pictures, and all that other stuff, and it might look cool, but. It's hard to be simple. So I love how simple this is because, your beer is not simple. It's everything but. It's very complex and has such good flavor too. But I want to know how you guys met. You know, I'm going to go Sam. I'm going to kick off Sam on this one.
Sure. So we both went to Vassar College in upstate New York, where we met on the cross country team.
And what'd you guys go to college for?
I studied economics and as a minor, and majored in like kind of an interdisciplinary major that covers a lot of things called science, technology, and society. It's kind of a classic liberal arts degree, right? Covers a bunch of different courses, and it's all wrapped up under this umbrella of science, technology, and society, which Carlisle did too.
Because I was lazy and he'd already picked the major, so
So you just followed.
There you go.
And then I also had a choral sequence, so like a kind of like a minor in studio art. But
Heck yeah.
So for me, like I did after graduating, I did use my economics minor a little bit, but really just going for that liberal arts degree, right? Like a whole bunch of everything that then you graduate and you don't know what you're gonna do. That whole bag.
Just check it off.
Yeah.
Got there, drank the beer.
got the degree.
Pretty
Little
much.
did you know that
Yeah.
the drinking beer was actually crucial into what was going to forgo.
Yeah, and Carlisle can talk about this later, but fun fact is like Vassar was founded by a brewer. Like Matthew Vassar was one of the predominant brewers in New England, like in the beginning, right? Like during colonial times, like or a little bit past colonial times.
Yeah, mid 1800s. But he made his fortune to start the college with a brewing company.
That's why Vassar is the Brewers.
Yeah. Our mascot was the Brewers, and NCAA doesn't let you have like a big frothy mug anymore.
No.
So we were just the Brewers.
It used to be
as
the-
the-
right?
Yeah.
There used to be a big frothy mug on like all the shirts.
Yeah,
and
I think the
stuff.
school burned all that merchandise.
Yeah, it's probably not acceptable in 2021 time frame. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys met in college, and then learning a little bit about you guys. You guys were on the cross country team, is that correct? So you guys were running. Running and beer go together like fitness and beer goes together, right? Like, so
nothing like a cold beer,
right? Like
After a
there's
hard
nothing.
workout.
If you look at those like
Good for you.
it is obstacle course races, they always give you a beer at the end or
Yeah.
anything like that.
It's because it's nutrient rich. Like look at all those nutrients.
I always bring this out. I don't know if this is true or where I originally read this, but apparently runners lose chromium or something, and beer has a lot of chromium from the barley. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna stick with it.
You know what? That's it. As long as you should pitch that every time.
Whenever
too.
I
Be
feel
like,
chromium deficient, I reach for a cold beer.
yeah, that's what. So you guys used to run cross country, and another thing that I read about is that you guys would literally talk about brewing beer. So how did it go from cool? We're at Vassar. It's about brewing, and we're gonna talk a little bit about you growing up. So you're a little bit like Sam. You literally were kind of introduced to brewing beer at a younger age, and kind of introduced Carlisle into that in college. Even though, right? You tell me that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll first say Carlisle spearheaded, in our adult lives, brewing beer and like getting into home brewing beer. I grew up home brewing with my dad. I would help him out in the basement. It was his hobby, so I knew a little bit about it. And in college, I introduced Carlisle to craft beer, but it was really him who, almost like after I graduated, I was a year ahead of him. He started home brewing or dorm brewing a little bit and digging up Matthew Vassar's recipes, and he really got into home brewing before I got back into it. Again, I helped my dad out. Like I kind of knew a little bit about it, and a couple times coming home from college, I'd do a batch with him, but he stopped, and I didn't get back into home brewing until I graduated. And summer after my senior year, I graduated. I dug up his equipment and started brewing it. So, as far as my part with Carlisle goes, like I introduced him to Sierra Nevada Pale Ale and Dogfish Head, and those are his first experiences. But I'll let you. I'll let you'll tell everybody like about you really revitalized my home brewing and your own first forays into home brewing by blowing up beer in your dorm closet.
Yeah.
He can tell you.
And I could see like in general like you gave him those first couple beers because we were talking earlier that like your beer was PBR, right,
Yeah,
Carlisle?
yeah.
Like you were like just going back to that good old American beer that's classic that won that blue ribbon, and then Sam comes along, you guys are at a party, hands you a beer of a Dogfish Head or whatever it may be, and I just feel like you had a light bulb go off on top of your head, and you're like, wait, we're at Vassar. You wrote a thesis, which was and I don't want to screw the name up, something against the grain. What is it?
Yeah, I called it Brewing Against the Grain.
Yeah, brewing. You wrote a thesis about brewing against the grain. You looked up the old recipes, and I felt like you got that wheel turning. Like, hey, we're gonna rock and roll on this. Like, thanks for introducing me. Let's go.
Yeah.
So tell me that story.
Yeah. So I mean, Sam streamlined my whole college experience. You know, I got to college. I was a freshman. I was a little square in high school. I didn't party. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything. Nothing like a cold beer after a long run, so you know. Within 2 weeks of being at Vassar, I had had a PBR at a team party, and probably about 2 weeks after that, Sam was like, you know, there's more than just PBR and Jenny Cream and all that stuff, and he gave me, and I wish I could remember, but can't, either a Sierra Nevada Torpedo or a Dogfish 60 Minute, and that was kind of like that light bulb moment. And after that, I was, you know, breaking the rules and getting people who were 21 to buy me a 6-pack as opposed to a 30 rack. And then Sam was doing STS, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I was like, I could probably do something kind of brewing related.
What's STS for everyone?
Science Technology Society.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so after I didn't finalize the major until junior year, but after my freshman year, I started homebrewing because Sam had told me, like, oh, yeah, you like homebrew. And so I started doing that on my parents' kitchen stove. Did a little there. I'd mainly do it on, like, summers and when I was home for winter break, stuff like that. But come junior year, I had decided I was going to do Science Technology Society, and I was already talking to my advisor, and I could write a thesis on the history of craft beer, looking at craft beer as a socially driven technology, and so how society kind of paved the way for craft beer to come back after the history of beer in America. And I also did an independent study senior year with 5 other seniors, so there was one beer and a 6-pack for each of us.
I was gonna say, is that independent study of you sitting down and drinking beer?
It was exactly that. It was so not only was I getting college credit to research beer and write a thesis about it, but I got a half credit to drink beer, and then we tried to replicate Matthew Vassar's recipes. And that's
awesome.
when I blew up beer in my
Lathrop closet.
That was my TH closet at that point. But yeah, blew up beer, and had to go to the.
Were you there when it blew up, or were you like
I was
in class and then it blew up
I
and
was
like
in
someone?
bed and I heard a pop, and I was like, I know what that is.
I didn't know if you were there.
And I had to go to the athletic banquet with all the coaches and everything like that, reeking of old beer because it had saturated like all my nice clothes.
Dude.
So it's really funny that you talk about that entire beer blowing up. You know, I had a very small stint of brewing my own alcohol, and this was when we were in Afghanistan. So what we did is we ordered yeast online, and I was like, myself and my 2 team members were living with the Polish for 6 months in there, and what they were doing is we could smell they were making vodka. Like they had a igloo cooler, like the yellow one. They had a little copper wire, and we could smell that they were making alcohol. They called it Bimber. We always called it Bieber. Yeah, we always called it the Bieber. The old Bieber is. So they would come and bring that stuff over. My team member brought his tattoo gun, so he was tattooing the Polish, and what they would do is they would give us alcohol. So it'd be like middle of the day if we didn't have a call or something going on. So he was tattooing the Polish, including like, and they were the honey badgers. The irony about this, they were called the honey badgers mechanized unit. So he was tattooing honey badgers and phoenixes and all these other stuff. So they were bringing us alcohol. Well, we decided that we want to try and make our own. So we ordered some yeast online, and we got the yeast in. We poured it into these 1-liter bottles. Then what we did is we filled it up with the juice that we took from the chow hall on base. Like they would steal all the bread. The Polish would literally steal like a full loaf of bread for their mead, for their still. We would take the juice boxes, we would pour them in. Then what we did is we took an IV tube to off gas into the water bottle. And
What juice? Like you say juice, but like what kind of juice? Like, I'm so curious.
All kinds of juice.
Well, so
just like
everything
you got your hands on, I'm sure.
So yeah, we couldn't go in there and grab 20 of them at a time because they're always like take 2, you know. And it was like this little tiny chow that like fed 150 people that are on this little tiny outpost and stuff. So we would take, what we try to do is compile all the same juice. So we would take like apple juice. We would even take Gatorades. We made alcohol out of Gatorade as well too. Anything that we can
that's
get.
The ultimate sports drink.
I know, all right? Like maybe that's what got you into it.
Electrolytes and booze.
I gotta ask, like, what was the best out of all, like the apple juice or Gatorade? Like, what worked?
Gatorade wasn't. I mean, at the same time, when you don't drink alcohol for 6 months, like you don't really give a shit. So
Yeah, sure.
like Gatorade works,
Well,
but I mean, it was
was
just
just like,
simple.
oh,
It was
like,
like
let's not do that one
grape,
again.
like hands down. We used like grape juice was obviously the most similar to wine, but we would have to like siphon it out after a couple weeks. We keep the yeast live, and then we would just refill it. But one thing that would happen is the first time we tried it, and just like you, like learning the lessons that people don't realize, is that we would end up taking in some of the yeast and drinking some of the yeast, and it was the absolute worst hangover I have ever felt in my life, especially in like 115 degrees. Like,
dang, you're already
the sun,
dehydrated.
you're dehydrated. You have the sun that is just like literally blasting you in your face.
Man.
And it was the absolute worst hangover. So we learned that we had to, instead of like pouring the wine out and hoping that we stop with the yeast, we went to the old school way of getting the siphon and literally siphoning it out to keep that like active yeast going. But it was that was my entire stint of brewing, home brewing.
You were basically doing what we do, just on a different liquid, smaller scale. Like the fact that you guys like reuse the yeast, like that brewers do that today. So I applaud you, man.
I'm ready to hire you.
Yeah. When do you start?
I will be the taste tester. I can clean and I can taste test. That'll be it.
That's all I do. So.
One thing I want to talk about is how did this go from a dream and then turn into a reality? And I know that it's not an easy, simple question. And I know kind of like, so you kind of got out of college, you went into marketing and retail and high level marketing, I would say, analytics and all that other stuff. You went back to Minnesota, I believe. Mm-hmm. You obviously are from, which we didn't even talk about, you're actually from Chester. Yeah. So you kind of graduated, and in that process, you got a job, which was kind of pushing this. So I'm going to let Carlisle like kick that in, and then we'll tie that in. So how did it go from you got out of college, how did it go from dream to reality?
Yeah, so I mean, back in college, we always kind of had this joke, if you will, that we were going to start a brewery one day. Sam graduated, went back to Minnesota. I graduated May 2014, and by July, I was starting an apprenticeship at For Brewing Company over in Pawcatuck. And we were buddies. We were, in touch. And so I'd be like texting with Sam, and I'd be like, I just brewed like 47 barrels of beer. And he'd be like, cool. I just bought $1 million worth of bath towels. And I'd be like, cool. And it just kind of went on like that for a while. And then I was working a bunch of other part-time jobs at that point, and about a year went by, I think, and I got offered a full-time brewing position at Cottrell. And then so I did that, and then I worked my way up to head brewer. And by then I was feeling pretty good about like, I think I could actually open my own place at some point down the road. And Sam was deep back into home brewing at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I should say, like, I did not want to continue working in the industry I was working in.
The corporate world.
I mean, like, I don't think anyone sane really loves it.
I agree, but the money's good.
Yeah, and the money's good, and like I think back to it now, of course, like it was stable and all that stuff. But like, I personally, beyond all that, just it was not a good fit for me. Like, it's being in the office world, like wearing a suit every day, like it was not good for me. And at the same time, I'm spending my nights like home brewing in my parents' basement, a few 20 minutes outside of Minneapolis. And Carlisle here is fucking. I'm not sure if I should swear.
Yes, you go right ahead. You can drop whatever bombs you want.
Carlisle's fucking brewing 40 barrels of beer. And I have like a good friend from college who's he knows how to brew commercial beer, and I'm tinkering away like trying to like brew 4 different batches of Kolsch in a row and trying to get them to be as best as I could be. Like, I think that's really when the sparks started to light off. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think at the same time, Carlisle can speak to this, but like, you didn't want to work in, a production brewer position. for somebody else for the rest of your life.
I knew how to make wort. I could produce wort on a large scale.
Pre-fermented beer.
Thank you for clarifying for people who don't know.
I could do all the cellar work. I could produce beer, but I wasn't making my own recipes. I wasn't I was brewing somebody else's beer, and I knew okay, this is fun, but it's not what I want to do for my entire life. I don't want to brew beer for somebody else my whole career.
Yeah.
And at that point, I didn't know 2 years time it'll be your own brewery. But I knew I wanted it to be my career. I wanted to be in the brewing industry. And my dad, he started his own business when he was soon out of college, and so I'd always had family support if I wanted to try my own thing. My parents weren't going to be like, "That's a bad idea. You shouldn't."
That's good.
Which is awesome. I'm super fortunate and privileged to have that. And Sam and I, the conversation just kind of started getting more and more serious. It went from being oh, this is cool, to we could actually do this. And Sam came out and visited a number of times. Mm-hmm. We homebrewed together at that point. We had the brewing system that I mentioned earlier at my grandmother's, and we started first kind of just loosely looking at properties, and then there was one visit in particular in March of 2016. Sam came out for a long weekend. We went to a bunch of breweries, and then we also homebrewed 3 batches of beer in one day or something.
Yeah, it was a marathon.
It was a marathon.
Yeah.
Damn.
It was 14 hours or something.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a lot.
That's the thing about beer too, is it doesn't matter how much you're making, generally speaking, it still takes around the same amount of time, whether you're making 5 gallons or 40 gallons or 140 gallons.
Yeah. And
it's a long day.
But at the end of that trip, we decided that we were just going to come look at this building just for fun, just to see what it would be like.
Yeah. I
knew the previous owners had been on the market for a while, and it would be okay, we'll figure out what it's like to look at a building, see what it's like,
what that entails even.
And we walked in the front door, and we were okay, the bar goes here, we cut out the floor here, the tanks go there.
Yeah.
And Sam got on the airplane and
I mean, we just wanted to do it so badly. And I think even before that, at the pool house, which is Lyle's grandma's, tiny little shed next to the pool in East Haddam, we even thought briefly about trying to see if that could work. Can we get a brewer's license or whatever it is, a brewer's permit for that location, and just make very small batches of beer? What do we have to do to make it legal for people to come and pick up growlers at this place? Mm-hmm. And then I think that's that very clearly wasn't going to work, and obviously your grandma didn't want people lining up the shed behind her house.
Nana would have had a fit.
She would have been shaking her cane.
Yeah, she would have. and scaring away your people that are trying to get.
Yeah, we would have had no.
Yeah, she'd be like, "Get the hell off my property!"
Yeah. You didn't come and say hello to me before you
mess.
The growler.
That's right. You don't mess with grandma. At the same time, she'll probably cook you a full meal and welcome you into the house. But if you don't say hi, she's gonna beat you off that property, right?
Exactly. And I think this is where bringing back the whole laziness thing. I like to say that we talked about starting a brewery and what we wanted it to be and where we might need to look quite often, but we never really went and did it until this first time. And it was I don't know, a weird brand of laziness where we were all right, well, this is kind of all those things, this we looked at each other this kind of could work, we could put the tanks there. Yeah. And I don't know, the rest is kind of history. We just started working from that point. And there's not a lot of ways that you could, with the layout of this building, even you couldn't put the tanks in the front.
This you couldn't.
This is, if someone else came in back then and was I want to start a brewery, it probably would have looked layout wise very similar. So the building with both the brand and the equipment did a lot of the work for us. Yeah, I'd like to say.
I always find it interesting too, because once you hit that point, there's you have that passion for brewing beer, right? The same thing that I have a passion of trying to teach movement, and it's the same process that I went through, entirely different with fitness though. I was where do I go? I'm looking at these different places, and they're all kind of wishy-washy. I'm this is possible, this is possible, this is possible. And then once you have that moment hit, and you're you know what? Actually, let's do this. it becomes like this incredibly organized, chaotic stack of like, cool, what do we need to do? I don't know, town hall. Okay, what do we do at the town hall? Hey, I want to open a brewery. Oh, well, you got to go on the state and register for this and get to this and this, and all of a sudden, you don't have a clue what's going on, but you're getting it all done, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, I don't know what the next step is. Let's go ask these people. And it becomes this, like, mission for you guys, and it just never stops. And then once you get your feet into the ground, and you build this place up, and you built your little house up, then it's like, okay, cool. Now we got to brew beer. Cool. Let's go do this. Now we need to open our doors and we got to set a timeline and we got to put their messaging out and then we got to try this stuff. And then it just forever goes and it's just this never ending journey, right? Yeah. The passion never ends. And going from that corporate world, which I feel I've been in that especially, that's what happens. The corporate world, they dangle that dollar and they're like, listen, I know your life sucks and you're miserable, but there's a lot of money right here. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to take that because I can. And I get that too. And a lot of people live that. But chasing that passion of like what you guys have, you have to give up the stability. You have to give up the security of a safe job, a guaranteed paycheck, and hustle. That's what you guys have had to do. And you guys had to hustle since the time that you go, let's do this, to the time that you are at now. And when you think about that, the same way I thought about it, you're like, oh, this is not going to be bad. No one understands what you have to go through to run your own business until you run your own business, right? No one has a clue of the amount of stuff the work that you have to put in that's done under the table, off the, and I don't mean this illegally. I mean under the table as in people don't see, off the books as people don't see. Mm-hmm. They come and they go, wow, this is a really nice brewery. You guys make really good beer. It must be a perfect life to just brew beer all day. But the reality is what I came in today to you. I'm like banging on your door. I'm like, hey guys, and I see you guys moving back here. I come in here, Sam, you're freaking cleaning out tanks. Carlisle, you're hauling the kegs up from the bottom down here and using your winch and stuff. That's the reality. You guys got boots on. There's water everywhere. That's the reality. It's the stuff that people don't see, the hard work that goes into what you guys do to create this quality beer. And I really mean that. Like, your beer is really good. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's just so entirely smooth. I just I'm very grateful for you guys creating such good beer so locally. But at the same time, with all that like passion that you guys had, that could all come crashing down in a year like last year. So what I want to talk is like, how'd you guys get through last year, especially, and kind of like what's up and coming into this year?
Yeah, I mean. You can speak to it too, right? Especially being in like the industry that you're in, right? With like having a gym, like it was perhaps even harder for you, honestly, but it was incredibly difficult. I think I was just talking to someone like this past weekend. It's difficult, like mentally and emotionally. I think that's the weak points for someone who owns a small business, or that often gets overlooked, right? You just mentioned it, like people don't see all the work, the 24/7 mind space that we have to have, or headspace that we have to have running a small business. That's what's at risk when things go south. Like, we can obviously keep doing the work. In fact, we might have more time to keep coming in and doing stuff, but I think that's what was hardest for us. I mean, people drink in good times and they drink in bad times. We were fortunate to be able to stay open in some capacity, although like it is a little house, so we kept the inside closed for up until like 3 weeks ago. Something like that. So I that for me personally, I think Carlisle will agree. Like, it was just, we were just down. We were just really down. Like, we were just outside, so we were carrying beer to tables with personal heaters, right? We had to be like a restaurant. We had to do table service. So we're both out there with coats on there. Our staff's out there with coats on, carrying beer outside in like 20 degrees, and we're just like, this is not what you wanted to do. This is not where you pictured yourself. Like, why are people going to come drink here? Why are people going to come do this? Like, drink up in a tent in a parking lot. Like, we're so fortunate for the community and the greater craft beer community.
It was hard for us. It was hard for our staff. We designed this place to be, you walk in, you sit down at the bar, you schmooze with the bartender.
You always said the cheers, right?
Cheers.
Yeah, that's what you want.
The cheers at Chester. That's what we want.
You want your regulars. You want to know what you want to be like. Here you go. Yeah. And you already know what they want. Like, that's good.
We're so fortunate that we have them, and we were so fortunate that we already had them when the pandemic hit.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I mean, Sam redesigned our website overnight. Like we shut down. We announced we were closing the day before the state shut everything down because we were like, we can't really do this right now. This feels wrong to be open when there's this disease spreading.
Yeah.
And Sam redesigned our website overnight. We went from being a bar basically to being an online retail store, and you could come pick up beer. We did that for a while. We did home delivery for a while, and then we reopened the outside come midsummer. But our staff, we were so lucky. They weren't hired to be servers, and we didn't want to be servers, but that's what we were all doing.
Because you had for you guys to be open, I remember you had to serve food.
We had to serve food. We had to bring it to the tables.
Couldn't approach the bar and
oh
get
my
your
god,
beer.
I can't even fathom this.
And I worked for several years in the food industry. I got out for a reason.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
But we were just so fortunate, one, that our staff kind of stayed with us throughout it, and was putting themselves at risk, putting their families at risk, working in a public facing situation during a pandemic, and so fortunate for all of our customers. We had regulars who were buying beer to go when they hadn't even finished the beer to go that they bought the day before, and
just filling their fridge with growlers.
And I think that's what I get, like, especially like, I'm right next door to you guys. I'm in East Haddam. You guys are in Chester. Like, there's something about a small town that you can't replicate in a big town. The people that really care about their town and care about the business in their town will always try to make them work. And I could go on for days about how much my clients helped me out, helped my coaches out when we shut down, and still do to this day. We're still all working through this, right? Like we're still finally kind of opening the doors, but still we've lost I lost a bunch of members. You guys lost a bunch of clientele and time that you're doing that. Yeah. And at the same time, there's always people, like, if you truly have a passion in something and you put forth everything that you have, I firmly believe you keep the mindset that you will be successful. People will magically appear in your life, or people that have been in your life will magically somehow make things happen. And it's not that I'm trying to rely on those people, because that's not the case at all. I just continue to do the grind of what I need to do to keep my business open, and magically things happen sometimes. And someone trips and stumbles and they're like, hey, you know what? I really wanted to do this for you guys, or I want to do that. And there's no amount of thank you that I could ever give to those people, just like the same of your clients that were buying beer even when they weren't out, to make sure that you guys could stay in here because they saw the passion that you guys have for your business. And they want to make sure that they get to, enjoy exactly what you guys do and continue to do and help support you. And I think that's something that you don't get if you were in New York City. Like, I look at the gyms in New York City that are being shut down in this huge city, and they're all out of business. Like, do they have that clientele? Yeah, there is a little bit of that clientele. But when you have a small town, you get that small town feel. Like, there is a lot of support that we can get that you won't feel anywhere else. And I think that's something that's really cool to hear, that you guys made it through there and had to change on the fly and make things work. And no one realizes how much that was. The change and retrain your staff. Honestly, I can see it. No, I don't do what you guys do, but I can see the amount of work that you guys had to go through that no one will ever understand that you had to do that. So congrats for you guys for keeping open and keeping your head, as much as it is a mental thing. You still stay positive through that because you're here today, and you're still here today. You're still open and still producing damn good beer.
Same to you, man. Same to you. I know it's not the same. We're forever changed. I'd like to think, for the most part, for the better, right? Like, our staff, we're all stronger having gone through this. And congrats to you as well, man.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
You said it very well.
Yeah. And I want to know, we're going to wrap this up a little bit. I want to know, what's the future of Little House Brewing Company? What do you guys got in store for the rest of the year?
We're gonna start.
Let's just tackle that. What do you guys got in store for the rest of the year? Events, anything like that?
We're gonna start acquiring a few other breweries. No, I'm just kidding. That's a long-running joke that I like to throw out at people. We've actually gotten some people with that, but
we're selling to Budweiser.
Yeah. You guys gonna have Bud on tap?
Yeah.
Naturally.
What do you think I'm drinking right now?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I like to throw that joke in our email blast that we do, and I've actually gotten some people. I mean, you know,
Dad, good with that one.
Yeah, I got my own father with it.
Oof.
I'm like, no, we're not buying. Dad. Like, what are you talking about? Especially when the email went out during the pandemic. Like, come on.
On April 1st.
Yeah, on April 1st. Yeah, we're a bit notorious for some April Fool's jokes, but I think it's first and foremost priority is getting back to what we just talked about, is being the cheers of Chester and just
getting back to where we were.
Getting back to where we were, which we still believe very strongly is a special thing, right? Like having the brewery we wanted to have, which is in the center of downtown and approachable with a lot of different beer styles, something for everybody. Like we want to get back to that. I think beyond that, we're gonna start bringing some more events to the tap room. You know, we might be, we did some beer and cheese pairings in the past.
Heck yeah.
Yoga in the beer garden. Primal Path.
Hey, we'll come down here and do a little workout in front of your place.
Yeah,
that's cool. I got no problem with that.
And I got plenty of heavy kegs.
Dude, let's go. Let's rock and roll.
A full half barrel keg of beer weighs 170.
Depending on the styles, like 160, 165.
Oh yeah,
it sucks.
Oh, dude, let's go.
Yeah,
I'll get my guys here.
I mean,
you guys are pretty ripped.
Yeah, and you can work your upper body and your lower body.
Yeah.
In terms of
the liver is a muscle like any other, and it needs to be exercised.
It does. So I mean, yeah, that's what I got. I'll let Carlisle add something to that.
Yeah, what do you guys got going on? Summer, fall time? Anything? Any big events coming up there?
We're hoping that we'll be able to do our birthday party, which will be early August. That'll be our third birthday, so. Tonka truck themed and
getting out of the terrible twos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they were some terrible too.
They were, right?
Hoping to stop biting people.
Yeah.
We struggle with that.
Oktoberfest. We did an Oktoberfest our first year. We did it in 2018. So it was like our first event ever.
Yeah, it was huge, wasn't it? That place was packed.
Was nuts.
We have more space now for events like that too.
We've got more space now, and we're a little better at the whole like spreading things out. So
I mean, you guys got an outdoor patio. So behind us, you not only have this entire patio out here, but you go up the stairs, you have another covered patio as well. You have patios out front. Yeah. You have the place inside here. So you guys got, as little house as this is, you have a lot bigger space than a lot of big time breweries do that just cram tons of, barrels in and seats randomly. Like, honestly, I like how spaced out, and you have almost like different environments. You've got the hops that are growing up here that look freaking awesome. Your environment and setup is legit, guys. Like, I absolutely love it.
Thank you.
I absolutely love it.
So I mean, like events and always new beers, and we've been doing a lot more bottle releases. So look for special release beers from us.
Releases.
And where can we get? And where can people get your beer? Obviously here, right in 16 Main Street, Chester.
Yep.
But where else can they get your beer at?
We're pretty much always on tap, at the restaurants in Chester, at River Tavern, Otto. We're on tap at the Pataconk. Where else? Red House in Deep River.
Heck yeah.
Awesome barbecue place if you haven't been there. We're usually on tap there. Periodically we'll be on at Eli Cannon's in Middletown. And it fluctuates. We're a small brewery, obviously, so what we can sell in-house versus out-of-house varies based on.
Yeah, you're gonna be mostly local. Yeah.
But you guys tell us where you want to see us on tap. Yeah, that's how we roll.
If someone reaches out to us and we've got beer available, it's going to go on tap there. So.
And that's happened many times again too. Like if people stop by and they're like, oh, I live in Danbury or I don't know somewhere else, somewhere close like Cheshire or something like that. Like just okay, all right. Like
if I can drive a keg there, it'll happen eventually.
Yeah, I live in New Haven again. Like I'll bring logs of beer to Barcade or Rudy's right around the corner for me. Like a lot of good spots there. So just let us know, I guess.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing I always like to do to all of our guests, I don't want to say do to them, what I want you guys to do for our listeners is give out some sort of like positive thing that's the mantra you live by, some sort of words of advice or something that you live your life by that's in a positive, that's doing something positive in your life, something you do in the morning, something you live by, whatever it is. And I'd love to have you each put something out there.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
You got something?
I mean, something.
I know
I haven't always been doing it, but recently.
He's better at this than me.
And this ties in nicely because fitness, and I do beer, but I've started running again every morning. I don't go that far. I do like 3 to 5 miles. I do it. I try and do it 6 days a week. Give myself one off day. But I've seen, especially over the last year, I consistently have only been doing it for a few months now, but my like mental well-being of having that half an hour to like just ground myself, to start my day off on the right foot, like that's been big for me. And doing something that's active and like just for me. Like I've never run listening to music. It's just me like having some good time to like. It's like almost shower thoughts, but better because.
Yeah.
So.
That's really awesome. Like I'm a big fan of that too. I love fitness in the morning. It gets the brain going, especially if you're running for a long period of time. It kind of allows you to focus and think about your day and also think about the importance of it. But it just helps set your day up. You're successful in the morning. First thing in the morning, you're out running. You successfully already got fitness in. Now it's time to check those other boxes where if you like hit that snooze 10 times and then you're already set yourself up for a very lazy day. And we all need those. Don't get me wrong. We all need those lazy days. But if we kind of find that movement to help wake that mind up, wake that body up right in the morning, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sam, you got one?
I think I do. I mean, first of all, I just want to echo that because like it took me way too long. I haven't got quite back into running yet, but I've been like hitting the spin bike and stuff.
Hell yeah.
It's taken me too long to realize the strength of the impact that has on your mental well-being. I think obviously this year has helped me realize that. You know, just getting active a couple days in a row, it's like, wow, I actually feel better. And I want to get to doing it in the morning because you brought up a really good point I agree with. It's like having that box checked at the start of the day. So for me, I'm getting to the point where I have that box checked whenever I can get it done in the day. That's not super sustainable. So I don't know. I'm just echoing that.
I think it's a really good thing because I think a lot of people are in the same boat as you, Sam. Like I think a lot of people are like, yeah, I'd like to get that checked off, but I'm going to get it fixed. And like I do that a lot. I'm like, I have this in the morning. Let me shove in a half-hour workout right here, and then sometimes a half hour here, and it varies throughout the day.
Yeah.
But if you can set yourself up to that habit and that system of like waking up, even if it means you're waking up an hour early to go get that done, that box is checked. You already are starting the day, and fitness in the morning really wakes you up. So there's plenty of people that are in the exact same shoes as you, Sam, and the same thing as you, Carlisle, and I think that's awesome.
I want one other, like, I guess one mantra thing is like I think Hunter S. Thompson is the good people drink good beer thing.
Yeah.
Amongst other musings.
Hunter S. Thompson has a lot of good
But
stuff.
I believe he at least was one of the people that said good people drink good beer. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, like you should really drink Little House. It's good beer. But I think
I am though.
Thank you. I just think there's a lot of depth to that. Like, you know, good people drink and eat and consume good things from other good people.
Yeah.
And
supporting local.
Yeah, supporting local.
Supporting, you know, it's
Heck yeah.
Chester's one small town. We're one small brewery, like across the state, across the country, and we were so fortunate, as we talked about, like during COVID, having that local support. Chester fared really well. Like the restaurants had local support as well. I don't want to speak for them, but you know, it's if you're supporting your local businesses, your local communities will continue to thrive and grow. And
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Couldn't have said it better.
I think we're all on that same page. You know, as business owners, you know, it's great to be big time, but at the same time, it's the small time that really shines the effort that we put in. When you become that huge, big number and everyone knows you and you got millions and millions of followers, yeah, there's something important about that, and congratulations. But I like being personal with people, and I think that's what you guys get too, is you get to know your clients, you get to talk to them, you get to understand their life, they get to learn about your story. Same way I like to learn about my clients, and I think there's something about that, especially in the world that's so much based on social media, the world that's based on the internet. We, like, whether it's Little House Brewing or whether it's Primal Path, what we're trying to do is build that face-to-face communication now, build back the roots of what people are built on. The primal method of communication is this. And I love that because there's something you get when you sit down and talk to people, the energy you feel, the way you can actually feel the emotions that you don't get on that internet, you don't get on that social media. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for taking your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
For sitting down.
Thanks so much for coming, man.
I want to say this, please come check out Little House Brewing Company. Phenomenal beer. Honestly, I've been to Germany, I've been all over the world, and literally their beer tastes like, their Kolsch was just like straight out of Germany. I'm not gonna lie. And come to find out, they get all your hops or you get all your grains and stuff like that straight from the mothership, pretty much, I will say. So like, honestly, come check their beer out. Come check this place out. Come say hi to Sam and Carlisle. Look at what's going on here. It's definitely worth it. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.